You are listening to the Football Diehards podcast with your hosts, Justin Lonero and Bob Harris, sponsored by DraftKings. Sign up now using promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS. Make a first-time $5 deposit, and you'll receive a free $3 ticket.
Hello, and welcome to the Football Diehards podcast. I'm your host, Justin Lonero, along with my co-hosts, as always, Mr. Bob Harris on Twitter at Football Diehard and Kyle Dvorchak on Twitter at FFKyle the Kid. Gentlemen, the Super Bowl is here. The regular season and playoffs have come and gone. It's amazing. It seems like it gets quicker and quicker every year, right? The sun is the same in a relative way, but you're older. Bob knows that reference.
Pink Floyd.
That's it.
Pink Floyd, man.
That's it. I saw Roger Waters one time.
That's all it took. You were hooked. I started listening to that stuff in 1973.
Just fantastic.
Kids.
Fantastic. What's going on?
Not much. And it is a big game. The Rams against the Patriots. We've got 33-year-old Sean McVay, just turned 33, the youngest Super Bowl coach. 66-year-old Bill Belichick with an NFL record 30 playoff wins. We've got a 24-year-old Jared Goff, the youngest quarterback to win the NFC Championship. And at 41, Tom Brady will be the oldest quarterback to start a Super Bowl. And we'll dig into that game a little, certainly in depth and look at some of the DFS implications. We'll talk a little prop bet and go through some things. There was a couple of developments since we last talked. First and foremost was the Soulfly show I mentioned last week. Was phenomenal. Had a great time. Go check out my Instagram at Football Diehard and see a little video of that. It's great stuff. You're all going to love it. Beyond the medal, it was Cam Newton had the shoulder issue cleaned up. Sounds like he'll be ready for OTAs. How good a news is this, Justin, that we at least – last year they waited until 2 years ago. It was the last week of March when they actually operated on his shoulder. It was a little more serious than this one. I get the desire of players and look, everybody involved to see if rest fixes the problems. But we had last heard David Tepper, the owner, suggesting that an approach similar to what the Colts took with Andrew Luck, if they got the same outcome, would be great. This seems like a best case scenario to me. Where are you at on Cam? And where is he going? Where's his future?
Well, I think we can all be in agreement that Cam Newton with a healthy right arm is probably not the most accurate guy. I think historically there's been some scrutiny about what he does, but the differentiator has been his toughness and obviously his ability to run, and he's been there inside the five. He's been their guy. He's going to get it cleaned up. Look, it's late January. The Super Bowl's in a few days. We don't know what's up. I mean, all offseason we were talking about Andrew Luck, and it's serious news here. I mean, for a quarterback in the NFL, I mean, they want to get it done right. And I think with a franchise quarterback like Cam Newton, you want to take time. You got to do it right because he's obviously he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. So it sounds good. Like you said, he's hopeful to be cleared for OTAs, and that's obviously good. But setbacks can occur, and I keep mentioning Andrew Luck because it's the truth. And obviously, time helped him, and Andrew Luck had a terrific 2018, terrific season. So,
and I think that's what led Tepper to say that, right? I mean, It wasn't like they're saying, "Oh, we're planning to hold Cam out." Just if we thought. And I think clearly this is. You mentioned something about his accuracy, though, and I do want to bring up. Norv Turner talked about getting Cam up to 70%. We all stopped again. Norv Turner says a lot of stuff that we don't believe. And here we look at the end of the season, and Cam Newton completed, 67% of his passes, a career best. I think his previous high was 61%. He's been hovering in the high 50s. Kyle, Cam Newton healthy in a Norv Turner offense with playmakers emerging like Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, the establishment of Christian McCaffrey as a true frontline fantasy back. Could this offense has all the fixings to be an amazing thing, right?
Yeah, I thought this going into this season, and I think, I don't want to make any broad statements based on what we saw, because it really did look like at times, especially towards the end of the season, there was just nothing left of him. Like, he was just doing whatever he could to get the ball out of his hands, let alone complete magnificent deep shots. I think, given that he is healthy, and given that he has these weapons around him, this could be one of the most explosive offenses on any given week. I still don't think you'll ever take the Cam Newton out of Cam Newton. We'll still have some, that's something that probably is unlikely to change. but the explosiveness on any given week could be incredibly high. And I'm just excited. I love watching Cam Newton.
I think as a fantasy owner, taking all the Cam Newton out of Cam Newton is not what we want. I mean, a lot of his value came from the fact that he is Cam Newton. He runs the ball. He's 6'5", 260 pounds, and is a load for the defenders to bring down. And I mean, for years last few years at least, he's been the top goal line back basically on that roster, which is kind of something we've counted on as fantasy owners. It would be great to see him get back to that value. This is one we'll be monitoring all offseason long, along with the ongoing soap opera that is Antonio Brown. It's not going to go away, people. The latest was a great article by Jeremy Fowler. It's got a lot of good, inside info. Nothing that should surprise any of us. Nothing that basically just confirming what it appeared to be from the outside that probably Mike Tomlin did himself in, right? Basically by coddling Antonio Brown over the course of time, because why? He catches 15 passes a game and racks up 1,000-yard seasons. Now that he's a little bit of trouble, we've been hearing all these things. The latest, though, was the Steelers have not yet given him or his agent permission to see what the trade market would be. And also we hear that Antonio Brown might still be open to returning to the Steelers. Here's my, I think I've asked this before here, but I mean, and I do think it's interesting because for all the offseason drama of the Steelers, it wasn't until Le'Veon Bell this past year that anything was a major impact, right? So the range of possible outcomes, Antonio Brown's playing somewhere else. Antonio Brown is the starting wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin, which end of that line are you closer to?
Well, I said this last week. They're no stranger to drama after the season, especially with Le'Veon Bell and now Antonio Brown. But we would hope that as adults you can sit down and kind of work this drama out, something that you don't like, which is true. You like to see what happens on the field, and I completely agree. Look, Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver in the NFL. So we're not talking about a scrub on the decline here. It's better. I feel like the mood is better than it was a couple weeks ago. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. The door hasn't closed the door on returning to Pittsburgh. These are good things, and I think Antonio Brown has made a home here. Not here.
He's made a home in an Airbnb at the teams.
Right. But the Niners, when you start talking about the 49ers, and George Kittle said something, and especially what happened with the 49ers this year, Jimmy Garoppolo going down. Wow, Antonio Brown, a recharged Niners team sounds appetizing. But, I mean, let's face it. We all want to see Antonio Brown return to the Steelers. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL. Again, I think he complements Juju Smith-Schuster perfectly. He's got that rapport with Ben Roethlisberger. And in a perfect world, and it doesn't look like Le'Veon Bell is going to return, but James Conner was a great story. I think that as adults, you work something out and Antonio Brown goes back to Pittsburgh.
Kyle, anything you see or hear this week or anything in that article by Jeremy Fowler change your position on the upcoming future, the impending drama, or what you expect to happen in September?
No, I think Justin covered it pretty well, and we talked about it previously, that things like this just don't normally happen. The most likely outcome, given, 53 years of the NFL existing, is that these things work themselves out, despite this being, rather publicized and rather dramatic. I think, like Justin said, we're all adults. Let's sit down and talk it out. I think the most likely outcome is that he goes back.
Yeah, I remain there as well, and we'll see how that all plays out. Another interesting, just a little bit of a storyline. And look, a lot of the news, this is so early in the year, and there have been no major developments. Larry Fitzgerald will return for another year. We knew about that, or we knew it was coming. Get another chance. I'm, not enthusiastic about the offense. I'm hopeful with the change to Cliff Kingsbury, but they have a long way to go, and a lot will depend on the offensive line. We'll see how that plays out. I saw Saquon Barkley, though, talking this week about, how he could improve. It's going to be difficult to improve, but he feels like he left a lot on the field. Justin, where is his ceiling at? Have we seen it already?
I think we have, and I think he lived up to every expectation that we anticipated. Saquon Barkley, look, with a healthy Odell Beckham can only help him. I want to be cheerful for this Giants team in hopefully a competitive NFC East. Saquon Barkley, he's the best prospect I've seen, comparable to Barry Sanders at Oklahoma State. this kid is a bull. He's 230 pounds, stocky, a miniature version of MJD, in my opinion. But he does it all. He's a 90 reception back. I think he can handle 250, 260 carries. And there's not a lot of those guys anymore. And I think the sky is the limit for Saquon Barkley. And in my opinion, he's probably the pound for pound, the best running back. If I were to invest tonight, it would be Saquon Barkley for the next 2 to 3 years.
Right. And Kyle, where are you at on Barkley? I mean, it's pretty historic numbers, as a rookie already. I mean, is it crazy to expect a huge ramp up or any ramp up at all?
Yeah, I think the only things that there's nothing he can do to make his season any better, especially for fantasy owners specifically. The only things I think we could expect to change is if this offense becomes more dynamic, decides to run him on deeper routes, or if they just score more points, whether that be with Eli Manning, whether that be with somebody else. Because he could have a crazy 20-plus touchdown Todd Gurley type season, but in terms of volume, that's what we're chasing. His volume is as high as it will ever get. So I don't think there's anything he shouldn't be saying, I need to do better next season. Saquon, please, just get a new quarterback.
Yeah. Right. A little chatter from Radio Row this week. Arthur Blank talking about just talking about his team in general. Didn't mention Tevin Coleman. Probably the reason for that, he is an unrestricted free agent. I talked to D. Orlando Ledbetter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He made a pretty compelling argument why somebody is going to pay Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon money. The numbers are pretty comparable over the course of their first few seasons. So he will likely be moving on. And they seem to be happy with, Freeman coming off a full year of rest, the groin issue not going to be an issue. And also Ledbetter mentioned to me that the team kind of feels like, with his concussion issues, the long period for his brain to stabilize is a positive as well. So it looks like Freeman is a guy they're locked in on. A lot of work to do on the offensive line there. Mm-hmm. We heard today AJ Green's recovery progressing well. He's excited about playing for the new coach. Jimmy Graham sounds like he will remain with the Packers, get one more season. Ian Rappaport reporting that today. We'll see if that becomes a factor. He'll certainly be a value play. One of the many tight ends in his value play. Redskins making a change at offensive coordinator. They promoted Kevin O'Connell. I think this is just a little interesting in that, sometimes teams are making moves, based on the notion they don't want to lose somebody. And some of the promotions we've seen, like Freddie Kitchens getting promoted in Cleveland, maybe they would have liked him to stick around as the offensive coordinator, but not promoting him opens the door to other teams over the course in the coming years, coaching him. I think this move to Kevin O'Connell, they have lost over the course of time, 3 guys who are now head coaches in the NFL. And Sean McVay, the Redskins lost him. They lost Matt LaFleur, and they lost Zach Taylor, who's about to be head coach of the Bengals. So I think this is an interesting move there. And, of course, we heard this week kind of what we've all had a sense of, that it's unlikely that Alex Smith will play this season for sure in 2019. So, that puts a big crimp on the Redskins offense in terms of the cap. So let's jump into the Super Bowl news, and we'll just a couple of notes going in. Tom Brady asked about retirement after this game if the Patriots win. Said there's zero chance of him retiring after this game. Rob Gronkowski says he's going to need a couple weeks to make his decision on his future. It would not surprise me if that went either way. Late season push kind of maybe was encouraging to him. On the other side of the ball, Greg Zuerlein did not practice all throughout the bye week. Injured his plant foot on that 57-yard field goal, or halftime warm-ups, but he kicked that game winner with the injury, so he's expected to go. And then a lot of focus on Todd Gurley. We went in depth on it last week about the lack of touches and Sean McVay vowing to rectify that. And I'm guessing he will, unless C.J. Anderson gets off to a blistering start, and then all bets are off the table because they want to win this game. Mm-hmm. So, Kyle, your assessment just in general of this game, the outlook in general to you.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting. The first things we got were that it was going to be a Rams -1 line. Then people hammered the crap out of the Patriots, and you can't blame them. Our prior of the Patriots being so incredibly good and winning all of the Super Bowls is so strong that I think it's reasonable to expect them to be a favorite. And because of that, I think you start to look at, if you expect it to go the way Vegas expects it to go, you look at the Patriots running game and their short passing game, and then you look to couple it back with maybe some of the Rams passing assets, the guys who will be getting the ball when the Patriots are bleeding out the clock and the Rams are playing from behind. But a broader notion this brings to me is that I think you have to paint a picture of how the game is going to play, boiling down to essentially game script. What do you think the game script is going to be? Then reverse engineer your lineup based on that. I think that's the easiest way to construct your rosters, or the way that gives you the highest upside of getting everything right in the showdown slates, which are just a few flexes and your captain. Justin?
Well, look, I think it's going to be a shootout, and that's what we want to see, right, is points. I think Bill Belichick has a lot of pride, and he'll be damned if a guy half his age is going to go and out-conquer him on Super Bowl Sunday. It doesn't seem right. Betting the Patriots, I mean, they're on a heater. I think it'd be a good football game. I mean, Sean McVay, if you watch him articulate himself, he's as sought out, and he's got the mind of almost a young Bill Belichick, knows everything that's going on the field on both sides of the field. I think it's a game where, and I said this last week, if they want to beat the Patriots, I think it would behoove them to feed a hopefully healthy Todd Gurley the ball quite a bit. Now, naturally, they have weapons in the passing game, and Robert Woods is coming to his own in a relocation, and then we have the Brandon Cooks narrative. He shined under Tom Brady last year. It didn't work out here, but it's going to be a good football game. We obviously know the Saints got screwed. I was hoping to see a Drew Brees, Brady Super Bowl. I like the Pats. I think it's going to be a close football game. Two sharp minds. Tom Brady is going to get number 6. And like I said, it should be a good one. As far as the Patriots offense, Julian Edelman's going to eat underneath. He works as good as anybody in small spaces. We're seeing a new Rob Gronkowski, not only blocking, but he's involved in the passing game. So that's a beautiful thing. Now, as far as the running game, feeding Sony Michel behooves them. It's been a successful recipe the last couple of weeks, so get to that, and we obviously know what James White is. So, I mean, they have weapons galore. It's going to be tough for the Rams, despite their solid, all-star defense up front in particular, and a top-notch secondary to contain the Pats. They'll have a game plan. They're going to be prepared, and I like the Pats by probably a touchdown.
Okay, Justin.
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Justin, I want to start off with this. We talked about the captain slot. That's time and a half points you get, also time and a half cost. I'll lead off with this. DraftKings, there are a handful of games we've seen this season over 40, 12 of which happened from wide receivers, 6 of which from running backs. Tight ends accounted for just 2. Quarterbacks, another 12. But if you look at the top 10 games by each position, wide receivers slightly outscored quarterbacks. So this tells me 2 things. Especially target wide receivers, especially target quarterbacks, fade the rest of it. Their upside just isn't there. And when you think about the fact that on any given play, a wide receiver can get a target that's 70 yards downfield, and every running back carry starts at the line of scrimmage, it makes sense. And then quarterbacks, just the sheer volume. You can throw 6 touchdowns in a game. So for me, that leads me to, Justin, you were saying Sony Michel. I agree. So then I'm looking for wide receivers and quarterbacks on the other side of the ball. I love going with a Goff or going with a Woods in my captain slot. Where are you going with captain?
I was screwing around before we got on the show, and it looked tonight, dollar for dollar, it's probably going to be Sony Michel. I want to pay for that volume. 53 carries over the last 2 weeks, non-existent in the passing game, but I mean, over 100 yards, 5 touchdowns. We're paying for volume. It's not necessarily the Patriots' identity, but they are going to run the football, chip, 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 bang. They're like a methodical boxer in the ring. So give me Sony Michel, dollar for dollar tonight. I think James White's going to have a role, but I think if we're paying for volume, Sony Michel is going to get the football, more than anybody.
I would argue that. I would say, the Patriots, they ran 94 offensive plays last week. That's more than the most any NFL teams run in any game since 2002. It was 48 runs and 46 passes. So, look, there's going to be an ample dose of Michel. I don't disagree with what Kyle's saying, though. I think you play with the guys that are going to come up with the big plays, and especially in the captain. I've been locked in on Woods for a while now, and I will remain there.
Another thing, Bob, I want to get your opinion, both your opinions. Am I just a fool for thinking that just we could get the Todd Gurley comeback narrative? I know, Sean McVay said he is going to be, whatever you said, he's some sort of integral part of their game plan. I think that didn't really change my opinion as much as I can just see. I feel like we get these Super Bowl narratives. I don't have a ton of data to back it up besides an entire season of Todd Gurley, an amazing player. But the past few games, if they've said anything, it's that, that didn't matter. I still just feel like, and also part of its ownership base, I think the public is going to be pretty low on Todd Gurley, all things considered. So I want to buy into that. But also, am I just a fool for buying into the Todd Gurley comeback narrative?
No, I think it's worth a shot, but it's kind of more of a hunchy feel. Look, to me, there's something not right with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not letting us know. I know he's practicing, and he said the knee isn't an issue, but clearly he's either worn down or the knee is an issue. I mean, why are you not? When you just sit down and think about it, sometimes when I sit down, I say, does this even make sense? That C.J. Anderson is suddenly the best running back on the Rams roster? It doesn't all come together for me. It tells me that Todd Gurley is not himself, is what it tells me. And I don't know that he still is. So while I wouldn't be averse to breaking out and gambling on that possibility that he turns back into Todd Gurley, since he's been pretty well rested, missed the last 2 regular season games, not a lot of heavy usage 2 weeks ago, So, I mean, all those things, yeah, I think it's worth a chance. But would it surprised me at all if he is still not Todd Gurley? No, because there's enough mystery there, and there's enough, just my common sense, my instincts telling me there's something wrong with this guy, because C.J. Anderson is C.J. Anderson. He looks like, he's the round mound of rebounds out there with his sweatshirt hanging out of his pants. I mean, just the eyeball test. You're looking, you're going, yeah, that, and for both those guys, look, they benefit from a great offensive line. We'll see what the Bill Belichick has cooked up in terms of, we can think back over the course of time to his bullseye kind of, who's going to be the guy that he stops in this one. We go back to that 2002 was it Super Bowl against the Rams where it was Marshall Faulk, let's stop the best guy. Yeah. And they did. And so do they make that same effort again? And if they do, who's that guy? Is it really Gurley right now? I don't know if it is. So I'm not, like I said, I'm torn on this one, because if I thought for sure Todd Gurley was at full speed and ready to roll at full Todd Gurley dimension, I would be eager to get him in my life, because I don't think you stop that guy even if you're trying to. But I don't know that he's that guy.
Justin, so when we look at these games, it's the Super Bowl. This will probably be the most action DraftKings has seen in a long time. So with that, you have to get weird. You have to get freaky with your lineups if you really want to take home any sort of meaningful share of the top 100 spots in any large tournament. And even then, you're probably splitting money with other people, because so many people are playing, you'll get the same lineup. How do you differentiate? A guy I'm looking at right now is Chris Hogan, 23 targets over the past 3 games. Another guy I want to get a part of is Rex Burkhead. And I think the sneaky thing is you don't think of playing 2 running backs from the same backfield. I think you can play Rex Burkhead with either back. Rex Burkhead has pretty much split his volume in terms of the expected fantasy points you're getting between rushing and receiving, whereas we saw James White's huge target game. I don't think he had a single carry, and like I believe Bob, or maybe Justin, it's a long episode, mentioned earlier, Sony Michel completely non-existent in the passing game. So where are you looking to get your who's your sleeper? Who's the guy, Justin? Give me the goods.
The Rams have a damn good secondary. Obviously, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, and as well as the Patriots. So, so these wide receivers are going to be covered pretty good. I am not opposed to playing kickers or a defense for that matter. They usually go low owned. You're saving money, and there's an opportunity to go off, especially a guy like Greg Zerling, Greg the Leg, or Steven Gostkowski. I mean, they can kick 40, 50 yarders, no problem, and you can walk away with 15, 20 points. If you play a defense, right off the bat, you're starting with 10 points. And obviously the Rams on paper have one of the best defenses in the league. And the Patriots, as of recently, have been fantastic. Obviously their secondary has been terrific, but they've been plugging the run a little bit. They were susceptible to the run earlier in the year. You're going to beat the Patriots. You're going to run the football down their throat. I like what Bob said about what the Pats did in 2002 with Marshall Faulk, who had an unbelievable season with that Rams team that had Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holton, obviously Kurt Warner. But you take away Todd Gurley, who Bob seems to be unhealthy. I think C.J. Anderson is obviously in play there. For me, to save money, I have no problem using a kicker or a defense. Now, as far as the defenses, flip a coin, because like a couple of weeks ago, Kyle, was 1, 2, 3, 4 in the OPRK. So if I had to pick a defense tonight, it's probably going to be the New England Patriots.
I like that, Justin, rather, because when you look at the correlations, the stacks you can go with, you can get Julian Edelman on a juicy punt return touchdown, and that's 12 points if you stack it with the defense. So if I go defense, it's probably Patriots for the sole reason that I could get a low probability chance of a 12-point play, and that's the type of crazy situation where you can really make your money.
Spinning off that, let's say, I mean, I know he's expensive in the captain's role, but Edelman is the captain, right? I mean, and hoping that you catch that kind of play, is that something you'd be interested in, even if it's pricey as hell?
Yeah, I don't think, because I'm looking to differentiate getting some lower-owned guys like your Rex Burkhead stacked with Sony Michel, I don't really think it's a problem to play the most expensive guys in the captain slot, because you have to get weird anyways. You're going to save money buying a weird guy, and personally for my captain, it's either Julian Edelman or Brandon Cooks. Those are pretty much the two guys I'm going with. And I love Brandon Cooks so much this week because when you look at the Patriots regular season defense, hop over to airyards.com, Josh Hermsmeyer, friend of the show. Patriots had the second highest average depth of target attempted against them. Basically, teams were attacking them deep, 9.4 average depth of target, and they also allowed the fewest rushing touchdowns at 7. So really, teams were scoring on them through the air. Teams were going through the air deep. That's Brandon Cooks. That's Brandon Cooks written all over it. So I think we have a chance to see a big Brandon Cooks week. And not only that, but in the playoffs, Brandon Cooks has one less reception than Robert Woods, despite having 70 more yards. The final guy I want to look at in this game is Gerald Everett, simply because he's just 2K. He's slightly cheaper than Tyler Higbee, who I think is more of their blocking tight end, where Everett is their playmaking whenever sparingly used tight end. And he's just a differentiator. It's an ugly name to go down and pay for a tight end who's part of a tight end committee who doesn't get the ball a lot. But really, you're just looking to bottle that one weird touchdown we get, whether it be a Philip Dorsett, a Cordell Patterson,
James
Devlin, exactly. You're looking to find that one. If you're max entering, I'm focusing on a core of the same few guys in the captain slot, the same sort of quarterback, running back configurations, and cycling in the weird touchdown game.
I'm with you on this, and the names that you've mentioned, Edelman in particular, kind of for the reason you stated. You never know what he might be up to on special teams as long as he catches that football. I do like Robert Woods an awful lot in this game. I think he kind of is the guy that's easily overlooked, but it's more of a solid play. I do think, like Brandon Cooks is the bigger upside play, and the other guy that you mentioned, Philip Dorsett, I think to me, he's a viable dart toss every single week at this point, as we headed into the postseason. So I'm with you there. No complaints. It's these narrow slates, you're going to have to do some of these ugly things that make you uncomfortable. And that's the whole idea behind it.
The Rams tight ends it's interesting. Last week I was on Gerald Everett, and I agree. But it was a Tyler Higbee week, 4 receptions, 25 yards. He got in the end zone. You were happy with 12 and a half DraftKings points. This week it could be Gerald Everett. I mean, they both fall smack dab in the middle of the sea of mediocrity. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo there. I think dollar for pound. I think that the Rams, and you probably agree, Bob, that they like Everett more. I think he's like that.
He's more of a
hybrid
big play kind of guy, right? I mean, he'll go some big plays. You look at last year's highlights of the Rams, and he was some of them, right? He is that big play guy. Right. Still a little disappointed that Sean McVay hasn't figured out how to turn either of those guys into the Jordan Reed that he created in Washington.
True.
But maybe that's a little bit more of a process, or maybe you just have these other weapons and it doesn't need to work that way. Kyle, I know the prop bets are a big deal this week. All the kids are doing it. What do we got?
Yeah, the children love their NFL prop bets these days. The first one I've got coming for you, heads or tails, both at -105. Go ahead, guys.
Me and Matt Slater, heads.
Tails never fails.
I got to go with Justin on
tell
this
that
one.
to Slater.
Tails never fails. All right, which team wins the coin toss, both at -105?
Matt Slater, he's calling heads.
Wow. Yeah, it would be tails, and I think they'll defer. They'll give the Rams the ball first.
You guys both go, Pats. I am going. I just to be different than you guys. Give me Rams. All right. Which commercial will appear first? Budweiser, Bud Light, Stella Artois, Michelob Ultra, or Bon and Vive Spiked Seltzer?
What the?
I mean, you guys can take that one if you want. I believe Budweiser, and maybe the lines have been updated since I pulled this data, but I believe Budweiser is having their. No, it's Coke. All right, never mind. Go ahead.
So we have a differentiation between Budweiser and Bud Light, you're saying?
Yes. Well, I was thinking you usually get Coke Pepsi props. Coke is not running commercial during. Go ahead. Budweiser, Bud Light, Stella Artois, Michelob Ultra, or the Spike Seltzer.
I'll go Budweiser.
I'm going to go Budweiser, too. I mean, although it kind of feels like it would be Bud Light. I mean, we're in this health healthy, conscientious world we live in. So a couple less calories in Bud Light, but let's face it, some of the best commercials ever made have been Budweiser.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you guys. They can see, for the listeners, they have a sheet where they can see the odds, so I will just give you the odds as we go through them. Bud Light at minus 105, Budweiser at plus 200. I, as well, like the value on Budweiser at plus 200. How many plays will Tony Romo correctly predict? We've got the over-under set at 7.5.
Oh, it's over. I mean, he's going to correctly predict all of them, and Wade Phillips is going to have a TV feed in his ear so he can figure out what defenses to call, as he said this week.
It seems like he calls every play, so I got to go over too, minus 130, so 7.5. Yeah, definitely between 8 and 10. I'm pretty comfortable with that.
You got like the meme out there that, if only Romo was as good as calling the plays in advance or predicting the plays as a player as he is in the booth. It's a
different view now.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with the under because you get a slight favorite on the juice. You get a slight edge on the juice. It's minus 110 compared to the over minus 130. But specifically, I've talked about this with a few people. I think there is a potential that they're too focused, or not too focused in terms of quality of production, but for this bet specifically, they're too focused on crafting the narratives. Which once we hit Super Bowl, we really get heavy into the narrative. So I think maybe that's the one thing that just time wise they're too focused on other things. How many times will the broadcast mention Sean McVay's age? The over-under is set at 1.5.
I'm going over. How is it so low? They're going to say that at 500 times.
I'm going to say they say it once, and once is good enough. So are you going to document all this, Kyle?
I thought it was McVay was, was maybe prepping the battlefield a little bit in the press conference today. We're taping this on Tuesday. It is the coach's press conference on the night after opening night, the morning after, when someone said, "So you're the youngest coach?" Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
Justin, for your information, I will document this as I go through the editing process.
Good.
For the listeners, the over is at minus 175. You're paying a premium to get the over, but I'm just kind of with Bob. They're going to mention it. The only question I have is, will it come before kickoff? Because I know usually sports books say that doesn't count, but I still think we get once during the game, we get once at halftime, and maybe we get once before the game ends. I see at least 3. That's a
if
lot.
If they're winning, it's even double it.
All right, our next one. Will a non-QB throw a touchdown? We've got yes at plus 275, no at minus 450.
I'll take
no.
I'll take the
no. Although Sean McVay can get cute. I mean, we've seen some cuteness and stuff like that, but it's usually for like a first down or a fake. I can't see somebody going the distance.
So who do we have that's eligible outside of the obvious Julian Edelman, who could easily? I think he was a quarterback at Kent State for a while, maybe the whole time.
I think C.J. Anderson, being the best play ever in the history of the game, could easily throw 3 or 4 touchdowns, but I'm not going to bet on it.
All right, I will join you guys in the know. What color liquid will be poured on the game-winning coach? We've got lime green, and yellow plus 225, orange plus 300, red plus 400, clear or water at plus 400, blue slightly lower at plus 375, purple the big underdog plus 1,000.
Water.
I'm saying water. Does Belichick allow that? I can't remember.
No, he avoids it pretty well, and then when he does get a little splash, he does not look happy.
He's pretty slippery like that. I'm going to go with water as well, so I'll go clear.
Yeah, I want to say the past decade and a half have been dominated by a resurgence of clear recently and then orange before that. If I'm betting I'm going with either of those, I'm going to stick with water as well. Nobody wants to be sticky while they're celebrating the Super Bowl. That sounds awful. This one, I guess a bit more serious than the dumb bets we've got so far. Our Super Bowl MVP. Go ahead, guys. Take your pick.
I'm going Brady because I have a thing for old dudes because I am.
I think Tom Brady it's obviously the safest when I have to, James White is right there. I'll tell you what. I will go Sony Michel, 25 carries, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sony Michel, Super Bowl MVP.
Does anyone want to go Aaron Donald?
Oh, Aaron Donald's a good one. We don't get defensive players very often. I do like that one, but I am going with my Todd Gurley comeback narrative, plus 1,000. We've got Tom Brady at plus 125. Sony Michel, I set here he is, plus 1,200. So we've got Bob taking the chalk, but quarterbacks have dominated.
That's the only reason, and I feel like the Patriots are going to win if we're doing those predictions. There's mine, and the winning quarterback almost always gets it. But I could easily see if it's not the quarterback for either team. The only other guy I think would be is Aaron Donald.
I love the Aaron Donald call, and I also just love to see that. All right. Who will the MVP mention first in his speech? We've got teammates plus 175, God plus 190, family or family member plus 500, and there's a bunch of other options that I don't think will happen. So go ahead.
If it's Tom Brady, it's teammates.
I'm going to say that Sony Michel does not mention any of these things.
Does not mention any above his plus 400 for the listener.
He just takes the trophy and walks away. He's a couple hand gestures and that's it. So nonverbal communication for teammates sounds right. There's the chalk. God
it's
seems
easy.
like a kind of iffy one. Definitely not the owner or New England. New England's not a city. So teammates plus 175 seems right.
I hate to be in agreement with you guys because that never seems to be right. No, teammates plus 175. That feels like the chalk go-to. And I think Tom Brady, if anyone wins it on the Patriots, it's probably Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's absolutely his teammates. So that covers like half the possible outcome. All right, that is the Super Bowl show. Guys, anything left before we get out of here?
I want game predictions from both of you guys. Kyle, go.
All right, give me, this may be with my heart, but I do think when you look across the board, the defense for the Rams has more playmakers, namely Aaron Donald specifically, maybe the only player worth an MVP consideration that doesn't throw the football, but their secondary is comparable, despite I think the Patriots are maybe a little better. I just think when you look at defense, go with the best player. That's probably who has the better defense. Then when you look at offense, you take away Tom Brady, and it's so easily the Rams for me. Their offensive line, I think maybe the Patriots have a slight edge, but it's slight at best for me. Then you look at weapons, and it's so clearly the tandem of Todd Gurley, of Robert Woods, of Brandon Cooks. So that's just basically the only thing I really feel confident in saying the Patriots are better than is Tom Brady, which is the obvious one. Everything else I feel is either a push or is clearly the Rams. And I think we see the dawn of a new era. I'm gonna go barn burner, 38-31.
Mr. Lonero?
Sounds like wishful thinking on your part.
Maybe.
The Patriots definitely have a better tight end than Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett.
This old washed man hobbling around out here.
Something. The running game is. Todd Gurley jumps out at us, but if he's not healthy, like Bob seems to think he's not,
then they've got the best player on the field, CJ Anderson.
That's right. Who's been terrific. He's rushed for over 100 yards in the last 3 out of 4 games. So he got jammed up against the Saints, but a lot of running backs did. I like the Patriots. They're on a heater. They have peaked at the right time, and that is a scary notion. I know that everybody is tired of the New England Patriots, but this is just what they do. And they've done it for quite some time. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this football game. That's what we want to see. I will go 30-23 Patriots. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be in large part to the ground game. Haven't had to ask a lot of Tom Brady recently. I mean, he is Tom Brady, but it's certainly been a different Tom Brady. So I think it's going to be won by the running game, and we will see some good defense as well.
It seems to me like the Rams are doing a really good job of handling the week. The early portion of the week. We'll see as the week goes on. This is a different kind of game. Experience will win out. I like Kyle's score. I actually had a 37-31, except for the going the other way Patriots. Basically, Tom Brady probably winning it with about 15 seconds left. Seems about right to me. Hence earning the MVP. But I will say everything you said about the Rams defense, I agree with. And if there's going to be a difference maker in this game for the Rams, it's going to be that defense. It's going to be that interior push on Tom Brady, led by Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. So, and look, Dante Fowler has added a dimension to that pass rush as well. So, so that is the thing. And just one last thing on Gurley. I don't have any inside information. I'm relying on my own sources. They are my eyes and my common sense. I mean, they're just, you look at the usage. Especially against the Saints and whatever they're telling us for public consumption, it does not fit what we know about Todd Gurley and what we know about this offense. So we'll see. Maybe he's all better, and maybe he has a phenomenal game. I'm still going the Tom Brady-led Patriots, and the Bill Belichick will have something cooked up for that offense as well.
You heard it here first, everyone. That is going to do it for the Super Bowl show. You can find all of us on Twitter. Find Bob at Football Diehard, myself at FF Kyle the Kid, and Justin at Justin Lonero. Good luck. Thanks for listening.